Let me share with you something quite spectacular. Let's look at these two charts. Let's look at the line plots in particular, especially in regard to uropathogenic bacteria, i.e. E. coli, Escherichia coli, shall we say, in regard to tomato juice. Now, what the research did here is they extracted a couple of what's called tomato-derived antimicrobial peptides. Sounds kind of technical, but let's just stick with the tomato juice part to start. Look at the result as far as the E. coli viability in exposure to tomato juice. You see like flat line towards the bottom there? Who would have guessed? Even though the research itself was regard to Salmonella Typhi, if you may be familiar with typhoid, and the background story in regard to this research was quite simple. The researcher itself was looking for a easy way to mitigate Salmonella Typhi in regard to typhoid, especially among children among the world, by looking at certain foods that could help alleviate that disease vector. And what they discovered was these tomato juice in particular. And as they began to hone in on what in tomatoes actually worked, that's where you have the tdAMP, the tomato-derived antimicrobial peptides. They were found to be quite amazing, spectacular. The reason that was important is because I think this figures were 45.7% of children in 64 developing countries don't really include fruits or vegetables in their diet, especially between the ages of 6 to 23. So it was deemed to look at this as a protective measure, especially for those not having access to medications. But in regard to our industrialized world, where typhoid may not be as predominant, the uropathogenic bacteria impact is quite astounding. So without further ado, let's get right into the research as follows. Tomato juice's antimicrobial properties can kill Salmonella enteric bacteria. And let's look at the public study. The public study doesn't do it justice. As you go to the full study, wow, is that enlightening. To proceed. Tomato juice can kill Salmonella Typhi and other bacteria that can harm people's digestive and urinary tract health, according to research published in the Microbiology Spectrum. Salmonella Typhi is a deadly human-specific pathogen that causes typhoid fever. Given that tomato fruit is more frequently consumed by individuals compared to other parts of the plant where antimicrobial activities have been reported, it'd be more practical to assess the antimicrobial properties of tomato juice as a potential approach for lifestyle interventions. In this study, we investigated the antimicrobial properties of tomato juice, the most widely consumed affordable vegetables, as well as tomato-derived antimicrobial peptides. So when you see tdAMP, that's what they're referring to. They really looked at 4. 1 and 2 is the one that stood out. Again, that's elucidated later on. In relation to their effectiveness against foodborne pathogens with an emphasis on Salmonella Typhi. Let's look at highlight number 1. We can't really go into detail in a short period of time, but I can show you some amazing charts. To proceed. In addition, Salmonella Typhi was effectively eliminated within a 24-hour incubation period. To elaborate, this is being done in vitro, so we're not looking at a living organism per se. We're just seeing what the tomato juice does in relationship to exposure to the certain enteric bacterium, and this is what we're seeing. So we're seeing promise. Animal and human trials will probably proceed later on, but now they honed on something magical and something quite common. All right, a lot of people are going to say deadly nightshade, but think of it as a tool, and maybe that can help utilize it in a more effective approach as opposed to discounting it because it's part of the deadly nightshade family. It was effectively eliminated within a 24-hour incubation period, providing evidence of the antimicrobial properties exhibited by tomato juice. Bar charts, boom, 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 boom. All right, method of preparation. We're not looking at anything technical. Looking at an heirloom or, I guess, Campari tomatoes, which are between mature green and breaker. Again, I'm not familiar as much. You may know a little bit more than I do. And, of course, the process in which they homogenized and filtered, and so on and so forth, until they eventually had able to locate these tomato-derived antimicrobial peptides. To proceed. All right, highlight number 2, the uropathogenic E. coli, which I want to highlight, even though you didn't see it in the public release, more so than the full study. And because it's more of an industrial element that is relevant to a lot of the Western cultures. To proceed, is recognized as causative agent of urinary tract infections, UPEC, UPEC, uropathogenic E. coli. UTIs, well, that's self-explanatory. A condition that can result in medical complications if not addressed promptly. UTIs are the most common infectious diseases in developed countries, i.e. today, here. We found that tomato juice inhibited the growth of Salmonella Typhimurium and the UPEC strains. Again, uropathogenic E. coli bacteria. After 24 hours of incubation, none of the tested strains were recovered. All right. Now, again, to reiterate or to show you, once again, look at that chart. That is pretty fascinating. What a great start, a great discovery. Who would have guessed? You could take tomato juice and these tomato-derived antimicrobial peptides, and with a little bit of food magic, maybe combined with cranberry. Again, this is adding publisher bias, and this has to be done in studies because who knows, they can cancel each other out. You got the polyphenols, you got the D-mannose, you got the anthocyanins, and then you have the tdAMPs. Wow, that could be a very, very powerful combination, at least in results regard to the UTIs. But future studies can be done. Who knows? They could work synergistically more powerful together, or they could cancel each other out. Until then, all I do is offer a hypothesis. All right, the action. I'm going to go down to the midpoint here because I don't want to read the whole thing because it don't put you to sleep. But to read fast, the amphipathicity of AMPs, antimicrobial peptides, allows for their interaction with the negatively charged head groups of lipid bilayer in the membrane. The interaction is followed by their penetration into the membrane, resulting in the formation of pores. These pores ultimately lead to membrane permeabilization, and subsequent bacterial death. In addition to the direct antimicrobial properties, AMPs have the ability to modulate immune responses by facilitating the recruitment and activation of immune cells, as well as stimulating the release of cytokines and chemokines. Conclusion. The abstract says it the best, so let's go to the abstract for that. To proceed, the efficacy, well, it's passed by this part. We already know how it works with Salmonella Typhi. All right, let's go straight to the tomato juice part. And again, you see tdAMP1, tomato-derived antimicrobial peptide 1 and 2, and it gives you an idea what to do. But tomato juice, along with the 2 tomato-derived antimicrobial peptides, has demonstrated effectiveness against uropathogenic Escherichia, some people say Shia, I suppose Chia, coli as well. It's a tough word to go through. This underscores their potential as viable agents in combating certain gram-negative pathogens. This study provides valuable insights into the development of effective and sustainable public health strategies that utilize tomato and its derivative as a lifestyle intervention. And you thought the only trick that tomatoes has was lycopene. But this is pretty darn cool across the board. Who would have ever guessed that the potential, again, future studies can be done, of tomatoes or tomato juice can maybe mitigate a global health problem in regard to Salmonella Typhi, typhoid fever. It's pretty amazing and so simple to have a potential solution right before us. And as well as uropathogenic E. coli in regard to the Western cultures in reference to the commonality of UTIs, and it works well against that. Now, again, you think about it. If you take a hypothesis and if it worked well without with interjecting publisher bias of something that affects biofilm, such as cranberry, mannose, and you take something that has that, remember, it creates that pores, that permeability issue with the what the heck is a Teredo? Tomato-derived antimicrobial peptides found in tomato juice. That could be a magical combination, provided future studies validate it. Again, Gratitude to the researchers. This is really cool. I am humbled you watch. And as always, well, we've been doing this since 2009. This is another element we could add to our zombie apocalypse tool chest. Easy way of manufacturing something if things aren't available per se, but still just the same. There it is. And I can't wait to see what you and I share next week. See you next time. Bye.